What is up, everyone? Michael Damon back with you for the latest episode of Starbeam.one, Stand Up and Shine. And Shill, we also Shill here. This is a series I put together to bring you up to date with all the happenings and news with Starbeam.one, based on the agile methodology of a stand-up, where I tell you what I've been working on, what I will be working on, and any sort of friction points I'm encountering. And it turns out so much more. Let's begin. All right, starting out with some program notes here. We've got Alpha 0. Nothing much has really changed there, except it looks like we'll get a little bit more into it. It's going to be more of the user accounts rather than the creator accounts. Unfortunately, we'll talk about what happened here in the past week. Good news, though. Wasn't able to get to as many features as I'd like. But October 4th is going to be more user account improvements, and then Alpha 2 on December 6th is going to be kind of like the big show. We should have creator account improvements as well as marketing and promotion. Although, as we'll soon see here, marketing and promotion has already begun. Okay, dashboard. Dashboard is a dashboard that kind of shows the important statistics of the system at the moment, and you can find that by clicking up here in the menu. Hamburger menu item and selecting dashboard. And dashboard will go over some statistics and kind of like going over these every week to kind of show what has happened and mostly what hasn't happened over the past 6 months. But actually, these past few days, we've had some traffic, and we're going to get a little bit into that. So we'll kind of dive into that here. We're getting some visitors, a little bit more than usual. We're getting I'm finally starting to feel, after I've had my Twitter account for almost 12 years now, or a little over 12 years now. It's really pathetic, and I only have 300 something followers, whatnot, during that time, and most of them actually have been within the past 6 months, sort of thing. And I'm just now starting to feel like actually someone out there sees my tweets. It's just been an ordeal, to say the least. So starting to pick up some activity with some followers. Thank you to everyone who has followed. It's been great. And also just the interactions and whatnot. And that's starting to translate to traffic, as we see here with our visitors. We've got 28 today. We'll post some tweets and people will start visiting the site. And we'll also get into why that is also occurring here down below. We can also see that people are starting to sign in with these different providers, and the breakdown there is accordingly. In the past week, we see Twitter. We've gotten 2, so that is starting to shape up a little bit. And then here, kind of like the main event, right? We're starting to produce licenses on a consistent basis, and it's just kind of just rocking my world, and we're going to get into a little bit of that and why we're able to do that. But you can see we're starting to get a little bit of traffic and traction here, and so and also sales. We've got some consistent sales coming through, so these numbers are starting to pick up, and it's really exciting to watch. It's starting to get some traction. Having said that, this the whole point of this is actually waiting until December, and here I am kind of jumping the gun a bit, and part of me is not liking that, but the other part is like saying this is like way overdue. This is what I should have done back in February, right? So that's kind of what's happening now, and it's exciting, and we can go through here and see the different numbers for the network value and the transaction balance, and they both look as expected. And so, if you want more details there, if I went too fast for you, you can rewind and watch that, or you can go to the dashboard and see it for yourself. Okay, so now let's move on to the next slide here. Okay, so what's all the excitement about? I just kind of first want to round up what I first did, which was the administration application. Finally got that done, and it's actually worked out a few times where I'm kind of looking for some information, and I didn't have to go to SQL. I just loaded it up into the administration application. I was able to poke around and find the information I was looking for. So that's starting to work. There are some things that didn't work, but still, it's more, some development around that to kind of flesh that out a little bit more over time. But for the most part, that's done. Finally, that took a little bit more time than expected. Okay, so the main event here. What else did I do? This has sort of been something that has been going on since the middle of last month. I think it was right after the last episode, actually, and I got into Midjourney. I got into AI art, and you can see my very first rendering, just typing in, I was like, I'm kind of into this 1920s phase, and that's been kind of the style that I've been drawing for my own works, for my own reference works, and I was just like, okay, AI computer, show me a picture of 1920s dance room, and boom, there you go. You can see that below me here in the slide, and that is my render, and I actually ended up selling this at a later point. So it's just been incredibly exciting to explore this technology, and by all accounts and measures, I have monetized it with Starbeam.one, and not just for me, but for another artist, as is the next bullet point here, is that I have onboarded my first artist, Imagine, out there. It's actually, you might pronounce it Imagine. It's Imagine with emphasis on AI, kind of clever. It's onboarded them yesterday, sold their first copy, their first license, and then got their second product issued today. So we're looking at this whole concept of AI art, right? And it's so, I mean, it's by its face, it looks easy to produce, but there's actually quite a bit of craft that's involved with it. And so it does take time. Like, it doesn't just spit it out. You need to know, it's like doing a really good Google search, like back in the day when Google first started, and you remember how difficult it was to type to get a really good result. Exact same thing right now, right? And so, of course, there are implications, and it's just a really fascinating field to get into, because there are implications. It's like, well, it's going to get just like Google at one point, where you don't even really have to type all that much. It's going to be able to produce art for you. Yes, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But right now, it is amazing, right? You're able to produce these really just amazing pieces of scenery and produce it out into Twitter and get lots of engagement. And that's just, and if you do it really well, people will start to follow you. And that's what I've like in this past week. I've gotten more followers than I've gotten, in the past 12 years combined, really kind of just, that's how it feels, right? It's just really a lot of engagement. So a lot of excitement around this, and, the potential is really there. And like, again, monetizing it, we're actually selling licenses that are tied to AI art. And I don't know if there's probably NFT applications that are doing this, but we're doing it for pennies, right? I think people are like, well, you just typed it into a computer and you just made this. Well, how much are you going to pay for it? Are you going to pay $75 like what's over an NFT? Or are you going to give it a couple of pennies sort of thing? Are you going to give it a dime or maybe a quarter sort of thing? And I'm thinking I'm hoping I'm banking on betting on the fact that people are going to pay, dimes sort of thing, right? Like very little amount of money. And that's, very little investment, very little risk at the end of the day, but you're still investing, right? You still have a token that you can resell at a later point. So it's an investment, it's an asset that you now own and can resell at a later point. So really fascinating, really exciting. And for the shill of the week, we're going to look at what has been going on the front page. So, all right, next slide here. Okay, a lot of excitement. Now, so there's a flip side to that, right? So I had been getting this AI art, and again, it's just, I encountered this when I did the Reddit thread last month, and I posted on Reddit, and it was just a tractor beam, right? I got very little work done, and same thing here. It's just like, wow, okay, I've got a really cool idea, and it actually works from start to finish. We're producing product now. It's not just me, but another artist. We're producing product, and it is selling on the marketplace. And that is beyond exciting, right? It's just, it's just really having to deal with that. It's very difficult to find the focus on anything else. And also, with that, it's not just, getting the engagement and the traction, but it's also making sure that things work. And there are a lot of problems. There are a lot of bugs that we ran into this morning, issuing the second product. And so, some of them are accounted for the next alpha, but some were not. Some were kind of like, ooh, really need to fix that. So that's also kind of a problem. And it's, it's a challenge to get through that. So, for the next couple weeks here, I'm going to be fixing bugs. And then, I've got this user email story, and this is the user email where email is now going to be a requirement. So when you sign in, you're going to have an email address, and you're going to have an email address before you can continue. So that's just been sitting there for the past 3 or 4 days. And of course, we just had a 3-day weekend. So just having to deal with that, right? Just eventually get around to it at some point. So that's the next feature. And then it's more of getting the accounts. As I mentioned, the same thing with OAuth 2. What happens when your Twitter account gets suspended and, you're not able to sign in? Well, you have your email, right? Your email is able to back up and you can authenticate with that. So I need to get that established, and I need to get that implemented. And then finally, observability is also another feature there. And then if I get around all that, there is, moving on to the creator story. This morning, working with Imagine from Twitter and getting into the second product issued out there is just like, there are a lot of challenges with how everything, it's like really advanced. It's very advanced. Everything works. All the pieces of information are there, but it's just really advanced. I just need to streamline it. It was one of the very first things I ever made, and with this system, so it's 3 years ago, right? It's one of the very first things I ever developed, and now I just need to really streamline it. And so I've been kind of working with that, and I have a really good idea of what I'm going to do to help make it simpler, but I still need to do that. So that's what's next on the agenda after all of this. Okay, next slide. Friction points. Okay, so this is friction points is sort of getting into the agile methodology of in the stand-up. You talk about what you worked on, what you going to be working on, and any sort of friction points that you let your project manager know so that they can tackle them for you. Well, I am the project manager, and this is just more of stakeholders, letting stakeholders know the friction that I'm encountering. And actually, I kind of knocked on wood last time. I said this with the last episode, and still the same thing. There really hasn't been all that much friction. In fact, things are really starting to gel together now. It's almost like, whoa, what's going on here? This is like, this past year or so, especially, it's just been terrible, especially with Blazor development and whatnot, and Visual Studio. And Visual Studio is really starting to shape up as well. It's fixing some things. The deadlocks haven't been as bad now for the past couple weeks. I haven't really had problems with that. So now, the only thing that's remaining is Office 365 support ticket that's been going on since March. So that's 6 months now that I have been kind of going back and forth trying to figure it out. And now we are in, what are the 5 stages of grief? I think we're in bargaining mode right now with what's going on with this ticket, because they are saying that it is by design, but they cannot. I haven't seen a single article. Usually when something's by design, there's like documentation or an article that you can point to that kind of explains it in detail. It also kind of helps the customer to be like, okay, are these guys just making this up to get rid of me, or what is going on there? So documentation, a link, something of that nature. So that's kind of where we're at right now. It's like, okay, now you're telling me this is by design, but I can assign, this is for Office 365. I can assign an Office 365 license, which costs $12.50 a month that you are billing me as a customer. I can assign that license to a user, but this user, because it is a live ID and it's not a corporate account, it's not something that's part of starbeam.one, it's an external account that works just fine with Azure, by the way. It works fine with every single Microsoft property except for Office 365. I can assign that license, but it isn't allowed. This user cannot use that license. And so now that to me is a bug, right? I am allowed to assign this license to a user, and this user cannot use this license, and that to me is a bug, and you are charging me for that. Most importantly, right? This is not just something that is like an operational error. This is a financial error, right? Like, you are now charging me for that, something that doesn't work. And so that's more by design. That's a bug to me. So we're kind of going back and forth, and I'm feeling kind of bad because I'm getting my testy voice out, right? And I've done a really good job putting my testy voice away and not being so testy in tickets, but this is a 6-month ticket, and it's to the point where it's just like, I hope you understand that you're not just costing me money, but you're costing yourself money, right? Office 365 support. You're costing yourself money with this ticket that has been going on for 6 months now. It took 4 months, took 5 months to identify it. It took 5 full months to identify it, and now it's taking a month to kind of go back and forth and kind of determine, okay, what are the next steps? You're trying to get me to go away, but number one, you don't even have documentation around this, and number two, I'm still not satisfied with the answer. So anyways, that is my friction point, and as bad as that might sound, that's like a 1 or 2, especially with what I've been through for the past year or so. It's 1 or 2, so not very major at all. Okay, next slide here. Okay, effectiveness level. So one of the things I've added to the stand-up routine here is effectiveness level. So this is kind of going through, just letting you know my level of effectiveness, which is I kind of struggled with a word, and this is the best word I landed on because there is an emotional quality to it. The efficiency is part of it, but it's also kind of like, how effective do I feel? And 2 months ago I was feeling really good, and last month I think I was down to 5.5, so I kind of dropped a bit because I wasn't, and that was more of just, I wasn't really getting done what I wanted to get done. I just more lethargic than anything. It kind of happens after really high intensity work session, which is kind of what I went through the month before. But now this is kind of a better problem, but I still feel like I'm just not able to get done what I need to get done, which is that email, right? Like, I want to be able to work on that email story, and I haven't done that here in like 3 or 4 days now. It might not even be 5. I'm kind of afraid to check. But anyways, it's kind of a good thing though, because the reason why I'm not able to work on it is because I'm onboarding artists, right? And I'm getting engagement, and I'm also talking with other artists as well. And so it's starting to become real. I'm just having to manage all of that. So it might be a little higher, but this is how I feel right now, especially when a story is just sitting there, right? Like, I've got this task that's just been sitting there. Oh, and then also the bugs too. So there's also the bugs that kind of get in the way as well, and they have to be addressed. So it's kind of like, it's impacting me, but I still feel good overall. This is not like a 1 or 2 where I would feel getting to the point of being demoralized, right? That's kind of like dangerous territory. 4 is actually probably the limit right at that point of what we can get to where I still feel okay. I can bounce back from this, not a problem. But it's probably still to be honest, probably a little bit higher, but that's just kind of how I feel at the moment. All right, next slide here. Okay, time to shill. It is my favorite part of the episode when I do have something to shill. And this time I really have a lot to shill to demonstrate here for your review. And so kind of starting here with the dashboard, I kind of wanted to point out that we've got an extra visitor during the time that I've been filming this. So welcome, visitor. Nice to have you aboard. Okay, so let's get to the main event here. Do you like AI art? And I hope you do, because we have a lot of that here on the front page of Starbeam.one. Just look how amazing this is. And so, these works of art, just to kind of back up here, is that it's not only the scene that we're creating. What I had in mind with Starbeam.one for people that have been with this since the beginning is that, I thought of it as a CD, right? And so you've got your CD. Well, is it showing up there? Yeah, so I got a little CD case here, and it's just having a little bit, it's struggling. There's Moby, there we go. So you got your CD, and it's got a front, and it's got an inside, and it's got a nice little cover there. So there's like 4 sides that you're really looking at here, and I really wanted to capture that with the product that you are purchasing with Starbeam.one. So you got a cover, and you've got a background, and then you have all this content that goes along with it. It's not just an image that you buy, or a link to an image. What NFT is. It is a full-blown product. And so going along with that is this problem that gets introduced, is how do you produce all the assets around that? You have your cover, you have your background. Well, what's going to happen? How are you going to make that, right? And so you're going to have to go out and get a designer to do that, or you're going to have to create a designer or have some magic that generates it for you, or you can have an AI program do it for you as well. And that's what we're working with now. And it's just sort of a game-changing experience. And so kind of moving along with the show here, I know I'm holding up the show. I'm just going to run through all of these real quick. So this is Imagine's product that was posted yesterday, or this morning, and this is the one that was posted yesterday. It's already sold out. Thank you to the purchaser of that, Justin L. You know who you are. And so we're selling a few of these. And so what we're doing is we for the first product, it's the one license only. That is your first. That's your number one. And so that's supposed to have value as time goes on. And that's what happened there yesterday. And so this is the second. And so this has 11. And so that's kind of how we go about. We do batches of starting out at 1, 11, 100, and 11, and then 1,111, keeping the theme of Starbeam.one there, putting the 1 in Starbeam.one. And so it's sort of a branding thing, and it's also kind of cool, because if you add all those up, 1 plus 11 plus 111 plus 1,111 equals 1, 2, 3, 4. So kind of a cool little dynamic that is going on there. And it's kind of finishing this out are all of these covers that are used for these products, right? And, it's not just typing in a bunch of words, although it may look like that, but it is getting the right feel of that. But it's also, there is a human component that is involved, because the human, what ends up happening is that the computer, the AI program, shows you a selection of 4 squares, and the human has to select which one feels more appropriate or most appropriate, and then works from there, right? And so there's this almost like a game, right? So you're just sort of like getting back with like Sierra, right? Getting back to the old days of text games, back in where you were like sitting there and typing, okay, this corridor leads to this room, and now you're in this room, and now you're kind of going into the same thing. So it's the same sense, and it's just the same appeal, right? It's just the modern day same appeal of that exact same experience. And here we are. We've got the ability to create a very artistic scene, but then what you go through, and the AI is very smart about this. Midjourney is very smart. You just go in, you type in album cover, or background, wallpaper background, and it will figure something out. Each and every time that I've gone through this and done it, as you can see, it's figured out something cool, and just something, I'm more abstract than most, so sometimes it kind of lines up perfectly, and sometimes not. It's just, I also go for that cool factor. I kind of want to just jump in here with Pouch. Sort of, this is how I onboarded Imagine, is that, one of the things I wanted to do is, because this is the title up close, is produce art from AI art. And I also kind of wanted to show, this is sort of also a demonstration of the, potential of AI art. It's not just replacing art, right? You can use people take this art and then they make their own art from that. So that's what I've done here is I'm still penciling. So what I do is someone produces a piece of art or AI art. And so I take that image and then I draw from it. I draw from as a reference piece, right? And I just think that's such a cool representation, and it's a cool usage of AI art, right? It's still a human making art, and also it's also using the AI art. And also the really cool thing about this is that right now that AI art is not copyrightable, right? And also Midjourney at the moment has very liberal terms around how you can use these images. So you can use these images copyright free. That's why we're able to sell them. You can do this up until you generate $1 million per year, which is far and away very acceptable for my case here with Starbeam.one. But once you reach that point, it's paying $50 a month. So right now I pay $10 a month. Excuse me, it was $10 a month, and then I used it all up. That was 200 images, and I used it up in a week. And so now it's $30 a month, and so $1 a day. So I'm paying $1 a day for this, and I'm able to produce images from that I can use to sell products. So also just kind of rounding this out is that this is a clear demonstration of an AI-generated art, a cute puppy here that was generated, and just wearing this funky outfit, and I added the tassel, and so that is what is for sale, or was for sale. It's sold out now, but that's what the possibilities, right? So it's not just a computer generated. You can use it for your own purposes as well, right? So you can also introduce a human aspect. So it's not all sky is falling kind of thing too. So there you go, right? So this is kind of just jumping into Imagine's work here. I'll just round out with this. Just an awesome cover too, so you can specify your own style. If you know a painter, it will follow that as well. So this is like a completely different, like a cartoonish style. Just awesome. Just so very excited with that, and so very happy. And again, getting back to like the copyrighted, right? It feels kind of funny copywriting watermarking. So we can also watermark a image. So it feels kind of funny. Watermarking an image that's freely available online, but this is more of showing potential, right? A capability of, this is what you can do. Because maybe, going forward, especially with Midjourney, if we've got hundreds of artists that are paying that $10, $30, $50 a month, well, why don't we establish a system where we get the exclusive license for that and it's generated and it's just private to us. In fact, you can do that with the 50, but it sounds, there's some ambiguity around that wanted to clarify. But just kind of going forward is showing maybe at some point we can get a exclusive image that is generated that is exclusive to Starbeam.one sort of thing, and we can watermark that and protect that as well. And so then you get to the argument, well, just someone has to pay their 15 cents up here and download that and circumvent that. Well, they have to do that, right? With NFTs, with blockchains, they don't have to do that. They can just freely pull that as like a web page, and there's no protection whatsoever. But at least with Starbeam.one, we do our due diligence and have that as a protection. So people do have to do that in order to, kind of circumvent that procedure to have that in their possession. So there you go. Cool, huh? I cannot get more excited about this because it saves me a lot of work, but it's just so impressive. Just the images, it's just like. They also just introduced a new version, or they're working on a new version, this new beta. But this version 3 right now, this is all the images that I'm using. This is right up my alley, right? I'm so connected to this version 3 already. I just don't see myself pulling myself away from that. Okay, moving on to the final slide here. Yes, I know I'm talking up a storm. It's just such an exciting time right now. And, personally, it solves so many problems. It addresses, the assets, and even still, going through the process of creating those assets, it still takes time. I'm spending like an hour and a half every product every day, just assembling the scene and getting all the assets and deliverables, the deliverables together. And, it still takes a lot of time. And so, it's not just putting in words into a computer. There's still a process that goes along with it, but it does make things simpler, right? And that is the point of technology. That's kind of why we are here. We can do so much more now than we did 100 years ago. And it's just like, I think this is one of those things you're going to have to learn to live with it and kind of integrate and adapt with it than kind of complaining about it sort of thing. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing both, right? I'm integrating it. I'm using it straight up for designs and creating assets. And I'm also using it to create my own art for sale. And I'm also creating it I'm also using it to create art, to create those scenes. So right now, the scenes that I'm selling are going to be on a lower price. They're going to be about the 17 cents range, I think, based on the math that I've done. And then for my own personal art, I'm bumping it up, maybe probably a little higher than it should be, about 76 cents per work, but it's still less than $1. And so I'm going to probably work with the numbers a little bit more, but when I do produce AI or computer generated, it's lower, right? It's much lower than when I produce my own art, sort of thing. So I definitely, that's what I like about this. I give recognition to that fact that a computer did produce this, so you probably shouldn't be paying $75 for it, sort of thing. But anyways, I talked on and on about this. I just kind of want to end the show here, and I do want to thank you for all your support. And if you want to get a hold of me for feedback, you can send a shout out to me on Twitter. Now that I'm getting followers and engagement, you can contact me there, or you can contact me with the email there. You can also just visit the site, and there is a contact icon in the corner. Okay, great. Until next time, stay bright out there and stay safe. Until next time, goodbye.